Hi, my name is Daria Mezentseва and welcome to Politeka World Show. In today's show, we will talk about the following. Turkey launched the special military operation in Syria. What will be the influence and how could be changed the global order with the help of the war in Ukraine? We will talk about it with the politologist Maxim Yali. Maxim, I'm happy to have you here.
You're welcome, Dad.
Yeah, it was a long time we were negotiating this meeting, and I'm happy that you came to the studio. So let's start from the last news. You wrote in your Telegram about the situation in Syria. We could see that Turkey launched its special military operation against the Kurds. And you told that these conflicts, such conflicts like that, yes, it changes just the total global order. So could you give us the understanding, what does it mean for the whole now situation in the region, this conflict?
Well, firstly, Turkey hasn't started this conflict in Syria. Yes, it started in 2011 civil war, but Turkey joined it 5-6 years ago, and of course they consider, I would say, we can have such a comparison, as Russia considers Ukraine, its background, its sphere of its security, as they say. The same concerns Turkey because, as you know, millions of Kurds live in Turkey, and recently there were terrorist attacks. Turkey authorities blame Kurds in doing it, and it was the official reason for special operation. Actually, I prognosed it just after there were statements of Turkish authorities about that these they were done by Kurds, and now we saw the beginning of it. But so far, last weekend there were only missile attacks, rocket attacks with the help of aviation. But today we saw the statement due to CNN Turks that the president of Turkey, Erdogan, considers it's possible to start a ground operation. And I think it's possible. What I meant by my post was that when world order is ruining, of course, different actors who consider this world order unjust and consider themselves as global actors, they try to use such possibilities. And of course, Turks as well. So for Turks, for Erdogan, they consider Kurdish problem is the challenge to its national security, and you know this story lasts for decades with terrorist attacks, and these two explosions, terrorist attacks, if to follow, the official statements of Turkish news and authorities, were considered as a chance to solve this issue. Moreover, we should take into account that next summer president elections are taking place in Turkey, and it's obvious that
this conflict, it's more the revenge of Istanbul for Istanbul, yes, or preparation for elections.
I would say two in one. Firstly, of course, as you know, for example, just to broaden the issue, Turkey demands Sweden and Finland also to send, as they consider terrorists, Kurds particularly, to Turkey and not to allow them to stay there and to change their legislation. As we know, Sweden recently made such changes to its legislation. And so it's a big issue. And of course, on the border with Turkey, there are a lot of Kurds, special groups, organizations which are considered by Turkish authorities as terrorists. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they consider that they need to solve this problem to prevent further terrorist attacks and just actions which could lead to fragmentation of Turkey. Moreover, we should take into account the statement of Erdogan after that terrorist act took place, that they didn't take condolences of the US embassy. So just, I would say, not directly, but they condemned US covering it. Mm-hmm. So then it was just before G20 summit.
What does it mean? How do you read this statement?
I would say it's a kind of bargaining, I would say, because they took place just before G20 in Indonesia summit took place, and there we see already results. So quite effective for Turkey, because as you know, at least for several years, Turkey is trying to buy aircrafts, military aircrafts F-16. So they reached the deal. I mean, during negotiations between Erdogan and President of the US, Biden, just on Bali. So quite effective. And now they are following, and just as for political issue, as I mentioned, usually it's like, it has always been like this. Hope it will not in the new world order, which is being formed now, that politicians, if they don't have successes in economy, they try to cover it or change it, I would say, with military actions.
You told also in your post that the mechanism of containing conflicts aren't work for now. So what could we see in near future? So as we could see that there could be another conflict between Iran and Azerbaijan, this one when Turkey launched another operation, and we could take in account Russians' terroristic attacks. So how will it influence the situation with mechanism of containing conflicts? International law doesn't have power at all right now.
Well, unfortunately, we are witnessing the violation of international law. So the key mechanism to prevent wars and military conflicts since the end of Second World War was United Nations. As we see, they failed to prevent Russian aggression. So as we see, and as I have already mentioned, other actors which consider and want to change the spheres of influence, to change the existing world order, use this time when there is a vacuum of power. Other actors always fulfill it. So that's what we see in Syria, by the way, for 11 years already. We can see there Russia was not the first one. Well, the United States, Iran, Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia as well also have their interests and follow and invest in these partisans, etc. since 2011. Yeah, and so this is the place of clash of interests of different actors. The same as to have parallels in Ukraine. Well, the West, who supports us, European Union, United States, Russia, we can see now coalition between Russia and Iran. Yeah, so we have already just, though it started as a local conflict, I mean even war in Ukraine. Now we can see more and more features that it increases and is becoming global.
Yeah, and back to war in Ukraine. Yes, I think that war in Ukraine could give this, I could tell, way out from this all the situation of containing conflicts, because how our war in Ukraine ends, it could give a lot for international order, as I could see it. Do you agree? Yeah.
Well, definitely, as I have already stated many times, now the future of new world order, the faith of it, if I can say it, yes, is being formed in Ukraine, because usually there are some, I would say, rules of existing and forming of new world orders. So usually the old world order is ruined with war. It has always been like this.
Yeah.
In 19th century, when Napoleon tried to capture all the Europe, yes, he was defeated by coalition. Then in the 20th century, First World War, Second World War, and the result was always the change of world order, the rules of it, new mechanism, as I told you. For example, after First World War, we saw the appearance of League of Nations. It failed.
Yeah.
Then we see, as I told you, after the Second World War, United Nations. Now we see that this mechanism at least needs reforms. So it is outdated, because if the conflict is started by one of the UN Security Council members, then we see who has veto, then other states cannot prevent and stop it. And that's what we see in Ukraine. So therefore, there are definitely gonna be new mechanisms, new rules to prevent further wars, and I would say the Third World War, because the risks of escalation
are big.
Of conflict, of war, Russian-Ukrainian war, is obvious. And now, as you say, all leaders all around the world claim just, okay, we need to stop this conflict to prevent nuclear war, Third World War, etc., etc.
Yes, that's the answer why now USA start to talk more and more about the negotiations. Yes. So back to war in Ukraine and back to Turkey. If we are talking about the place of Turkey right now, so we know that Turkey's role expands. How would you observe the place now of Turkey? Because from one side, Turkey remains the context with Russia. From another side, we could see that they sent Ukraine some drones, some military stuff. So, does this position of Turkey help or hinder Ukraine?
You know, Turkey is just the best case to show how real politics work. What I mean
for us,
that
for Ukraine,
well, for anybody and for us as well, because
what
as
does
you know,
it mean? Yes,
so I'm just due to realpolitik, as it's just not even English term, yes, in politology. So every country tries to fulfill, to realize and follow its national interests.
Yeah.
So, and depending in any situation. So, what we can see, Turkey, from one side, they do, and they have already helped us a lot, especially during first months of Russian full-scale aggression, to win the battle for Kiev. I mean, Bayraktars, these drones helped us a lot to eliminate plenty of tanks, vehicles, etc., etc. Now, just recently, we saw good news. They built just a vessel for us, right? Military, to be correct, warship. Yes, but they earn it on it. They don't just give us, like, for example, United States, European Union states. Yes, they just don't go, oh, Russia is a bad aggressor, please take it. No, they earn on it. They earn money on grain deal. Yes, so as you know, Ukrainian grain mostly and firstly comes to Turkey, and they buy it from another side. We saw during these 9 months, especially in summer, that they buy Ukrainian grain stolen by Russians on occupied territories, and then they resell it, earning money. On the other hand, so they at the same time, Erdogan has never admitted in Turkey since 2014 annexation of Crimea, because they have their own interests. Because a lot of about 2 million of Crimean Tatars live in Turkey.
Yeah.
Elections, votes.
Yeah.
So they had and still have their own interests, their economical interests in Crimea particularly. But at the same time, what we see, just recent also statements last week, yes, they are planning and negotiating, I mean Erdogan with Putin, negotiating to make a gas hub to sell Russian gas to Europe, where in Turkey. Again, they earn money on it. So, from one side, they help Ukraine to stand, military aggression of Russia. At the same time, earning money. At the same time, increasing its influence in Ukraine, because, great market we saw just last year.
Ukraine wins from it, or hinders?
Well, we do, as I have mentioned, we do win, and that's how we also should consider. Okay.
So it's okay for us. So Turkey anti-Russian has anti-Russian position, but Turkey helps us. So never mind. We should play.
Besides, as you remember, Turkey has become already a platform for negotiations with Russians. We saw in spring and April meetings in Ankara. Yes, the ministers of foreign affairs. So Erdogan has already become the key negotiator, just between Russia and Ukraine, and these Minsk III we are so afraid of to be signed, could be signed. If it is signed, then it is signed in Turkey. We see that the platform Minsk, which used to be, the key place of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine until 2022 already.
But it won't work out. Minsk III, it's nothing because Russia won't be able to do what is written in Minsk III, and President told that we don't agree with it.
Definitely, but keep our fingers crossed.
I don't believe it personally.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I don't believe that. I say it every time when I give interviews to international channels, because for Zelensky it will be political death, definitely.
Yes.
Because Ukrainian people will not take it. But I'm telling you just what we see now. The statements even from the United States, from European leaders. Yes. So it's time to sit on the table to start negotiations with Russia. Okay, we can see statements of politicians in Europe. I'm not talking about such like Orban's, etc. Even in US. Okay, Crimea. It will be too difficult to deoccupy, etc. Ukraine should also give some, be ready for compromises, etc., etc. We hear these talks since full-scale war began, actually.
But what I can see is that ongoing Russian attacks on infrastructure, it makes harder for Turkey to maintain its position and to be between Ukraine and Russia. So, what do you think? Could USA push Turkey, make pressure on it? What do you think?
They do it, by the way, but very important statements.
But now it looks like balance.
No. Well, politics is a kind of it's an art of compromises.
Yeah.
Yes, just if we see the
now
best
it's
definition.
not time for compromises. It's time for.
So I'm giving you just examples. So good for us, and why Turkey helps us. Yes, as you know, just recently, Turkey forbade to come to the Black Sea through Bosphor Russian warships, which were supposed to launch missiles on Ukrainian infrastructure.
Yes,
right?
it's a good
They
side.
were waiting for 8 months.
But what about my question?
Denied. Yeah.
Could the USA make this pressure? Okay,
I'm telling you the results.
Turkey?
Definitely. So now another kind just of pressure, but they cannot press on Turkey because Turkey is already a regional superpower, and it's not like when you are totally dependent on somebody, you can say do it like this, do it like that.
But Turkey not a global superpower, not
I told you regional superpower.
Yeah, but not hegemon like the USA.
Definitely, but as we know, Turkey was blamed by US officials as well, ministers, etc., that they help Russia to escape sanctions. If you look to the economical turnover between Russia and Ukraine, or Russia and Turkey, it increased greatly. And some elements, products, Russia was buying through Turkey. So,
and if these sanctions will be strengthened by the USA, how it could jeopardize the relations between Russia and Turkey?
Erdogan teaches not only Ukraine, but also Putin. Well, good example. Even if you remember this photo from the summit, Shanghai Organization in Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
When Erdogan was sitting in the center and Putin just somewhere
in the corner,
in the corner near the president of Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, etc., etc. And it was obvious. You could see who is this captain on this fucking boat. As you know, there was such a song, American, and so therefore, I'm telling you, he uses this sanctions regime just to press. He is pressing on Russia. He asks, okay, we help you somehow, we just negotiate, etc. Give us more discounts for gas. As you saw, and now, okay, we want to become a gas hub, as I told you. Great, we'll earn money on it. Okay, we'll take your grain, Russian grain, then just make some products of it and then send to Africa, earning on it. And so many examples. We can see that Turkey just reaches its interests, economical, political, with the help of Russia, with the help of this war, with the help of this aggression. And moreover, as I told you already, even for several years, as I told you, US government blocked, and administrations, and especially Biden administration, blocked the selling of F-16. Now they agreed for it.
Yeah.
At the same time, Turkey will join the regime further is coming. Yes, regime of sanctions on oil,
Yeah.
and also they they will block getting tankers who are not insured. So definitely it will lead to problems to Russia, and they will earn less because so much oil is just transported from the Black Sea in Novorossiysk oil terminal. So just that's how politics works.
Yes, and if we talk about the politics, we know that there are much more contacts between China and USA. What do you think? Could China replace this place of Turkey as a negotiator? Because, for example, I had an interview with a diplomat, Kurt Walker. He told me that any possible reasons why China will be the negotiator between Russia and Ukraine. And so what is your opinion on it? What do you make of it?
No, I don't. I also, well, of course, China has much more influence on Russia. But the point is that
Than Turkey, or
definitely, well,
Okay.
it's a new global superpower.
Yes,
It's
yes,
not
yes,
regional already. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. If you look on all aspects, as it usually, so the key ones: economical, military, and informational
Yeah.
sphere, technological. Yes,
Of course.
science, etc. And even US admits it. So now we see, and as I see. So, for example, Putin is trying to bring us back not to the future, but to the past, to the 19th century, when such a world order existed.
Yeah, I think they bring themselves.
So they want to become a regional superpower. Well, actually, they dreamed in starting aggression against Ukraine in 2014 by annexing Crimea and starting military aggression in Donbass to restore bipolar world order. Yeah, I'm sure you heard about it. Well, second Yalta, yes, and still now they understood. Okay, we want multipolar world order.
So, do China would like to be engaged in this conflict, like the USA?
Somehow they engaged.
Would it see it?
So far, and good for us, officially, and there are no such proofs, I would say, that China helps in military sphere, though Russia constantly asks them to sell weapons, shells, etc. Secondly, they do not help, at least officially, to prevent economical sanctions. And these negotiations between Washington and Beijing were successful. But at the same time, on the diplomatical level, they do help Russia. In the United Nations, in Security Council, all the resolutions against Russia China stated on the Russian side. They voted against it. For example, latest example, resolution for reparations to Ukraine. Yes, China
yes.
negative.
Yes, yes, we know this information. So, what would be the merits if China will agree to be the negotiator between Russia and Ukraine?
Of course, it would be good for us. But China, what I'm trying to tell you to explain,
that will be good. But what could be the merits
for Ukraine?
No, for China. So what could be merits for China to be the negotiator? So I don't think that they could agree without any merits. For example, USA could.
What I'm trying to tell you that China benefits from this war, from Russian aggression, even much more than Turkey, because every day the dependence of Russia is constantly increasing.
Yeah.
And China is increasing its sales, automobile spheres, but not in high technologies. I'm telling you, China will not become, unfortunately, judging from nowadays, yes, a key negotiator. They don't need it. The longer this war lasts, the more merits China gets.
Yeah, but if, for example, you say, we'll tell China that, okay, we will back you some microchips negotiations, which what we cut off, because we know that China, despite the fact is very reliant on USA technologies. So could it be like the points they could negotiate this situation between Russia
Look to the
and
national security of the United States, which was recently published. So if both and in previous, by the way, both if Russia is considered as a challenge and threat both to national interests of the United States and to international security, the China is number one rival for global leadership. So what I was saying about and telling you, just like we are seeing that by the end of this war, when we defeat Russia with the help of our Western allies, there's gonna be a bipolar new world order again, but instead of Soviet Union, which was the second polar after Second World War until the collapse of the USSR, will become China. And definitely we saw on G20 summit first negotiations between Biden and Xi Jinping, and they are making now commissions, etc. So they are negotiating.
But I thought that they negotiated on bipolar world far away.
There were such propositions in, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016 by Brzezinski, Zbigniew, who is died already, who passed away already, but another one in politology and diplomacy, Kissinger, still also was writing essays, articles to propose to become China number 2 superpower and to form a bipolar world order. So that's what we are seeing. And the condition of bipolar world order is that Russia, after it is defeated loses its military, first of all, potential. Yes, because economically it's not even regional. Well, it's still regional superpower on the Eurasia. Yes, still. But in military sphere, they are still number 2. Taken into, I'm not talking about army, correction, but nuclear weapons. Yes, and its nuclear potential. It still can ruin the world, and that's why it's a big pressure on President Zelensky, on Ukraine, well, to go for compromises, because, as you know, at least for several months after our victories in Kharkiv, yes, in Kherson region, after annexation of new territories, Putin is threatening to use nuclear weapons. And the only good result for us on the G20 summit particularly was that China officially stated that they made common statement with President Biden, with the US, that they stand against the usage of nuclear weapons. Moreover, China finally recalled that they also joined Budapest Memorandum, and that they all also have obligations for Ukraine to prevent the usage, at least, of nuclear weapons. And it was official statements in China media. China officials stated it.
Yeah, but the reason is that Russia hasn't got any choices what to do in Ukraine. Only nuclear power is one option which lasts for them. So that's why they all time remain this position.
No, you see, just they also, and Putin stated, okay, I suppose that it was good result for G20 summit. The China also said, okay, you don't use nuclear weapons. We forbid you. Because, as you know, China
now we could
buying Russian oil, the biggest buyer.
We could say right now that if China tell that, Russia don't use nuclear weapons, so that's why Russia won't be never do it?
Never say never, especially when you have affairs which with such dictators who definitely have psychological problems. And well, it's a question, it's another, I would say, topic for discussion, probably with a professional psychologist.
Yes, of
course. For Putin. But what I was trying to tell you, the way the Russians, Kremlin, now trying to pressure on us, and not only on Zelensky, but also on Ukrainian society, because it seems me they finally start understanding the difference between us and them. Though Putin still states that he considers us, meaning Russians and Ukrainians, common one people, yes? Well, he saw that, public opinion polls, 80% of Ukrainians stand against any negotiations before all the territories of Ukraine deoccupied. So far, we have deoccupied 52%. But what he is doing now, luckily, we are sitting with you just like electricity, a few minutes before we started.
Yeah.
Well, and it was one of the reasons why we didn't meet before, and all Ukrainians feel it, yes? So they are trying to destroy our critical infrastructure, electricity system, and then to make disorder inside Ukraine.
Yeah.
And we saw some positive, I would say.
But then, for the end, I would like to ask you, so for now, Russia is one soldier in the field, or there are still partners for Russia who really could help Russia to win?
Well, there are. Well, there is. We can see obvious coalition. Iran.
Yeah, but could be this coalition
North Korea.
A case of the win for Russia? I couldn't tell it really, because we could see
That
now.
depends what you consider the win, the winning. What is the victory, to be correct? Yes. So, well, I don't think without military assistance of China, Russia cannot win this war.
Yeah, what I would like to say.
So, but economically, they help to prevent economical collapse, and well, by hook or by crook, I would say, just they are also sponsoring this war, buying Russian oil, which is the key source of financing of this war. The same we see in India, and that's we are coming back to theory of international interests. Yeah, so okay, if we can buy 20, if we can get a 20% discount for oil, let's buy it. India, well, many times just last year, if you see the numbers, the figures, how much oil they used to buy last year and now, great difference.
Do you observe any ways the USA could influence Iran? In context
Are you sure it's the last question? Because you know, well,
Yeah.
Okay, let's put it this way. I'll try to be short.
To be short, yes, thank you.
They can pressure on Israel, and it seems me they have already done.
Yeah.
Good statements, so long awaited statement of Israel just today. If Iran sells ballistic missiles to Russia, then they will consider to give us also ballistic missiles. And that was the signal not even to Iran, but to Moscow. Because definitely Iran is too far. But Moscow is much closer.
Yeah, that's why this coalition between Iran and Russia...
Another example how US also, well, it backs Israel,
war.
First of all, yes, and it sells its technologies, weapons, aircrafts, etc., etc. Well, how you can press on tyranny only by military actions. Economical sanctions do not work. Iran is the best example for such dictator regimes. But when Israel aircrafts fly to Syria and bomb attack with missiles these plants which produce the drones, which Russia buys and uses to destroy our infrastructure, that's how it is. That's the only mechanism, I would say, to stop and to influence, to destroy. Because dictators perceive and understand only one language. It is the language of power.
Yeah, Maxim, I would like to make a point here that it were really great words you told at the end. Yeah, and thank you for this fruitful talk. Thank you for all these positions. Yeah, so and I hope you will come one more time, right there. So I see you.
See you.
Yeah. So we had today in our studio a politologist, Maxim Yali. Thank you to be with us, and see you in the next show. Bye.